Now, video 2 of military press. At start position, we have feet hip width apart, thumbs wrapped around the bar, wrists stacked over the elbows. Purpose of military press is to improve upper body strength and hypertrophy, typically trained in 10 to 12 rep range. This movement emphasizes force production through the pectoralis major and anterior deltoid with assistance from triceps during the press. At the top position, we're also training core activation during vertical force production, which challenges overhead stability, specifically in shoulder flexion and an elbow extension. In my reps, I wasn't engaging my core properly and relied too much on my arms. That increases the risk of lumbar extension and lower back strain. I also noticed my head position was off. I was looking down as I pressed. This puts unnecessary strain on my neck. The cue is to tuck chin in and out during press. Keep it neutral. Brace that core so that I can have more of that posterior tilt to activate trunk stiffness. Now for front squat, it's to generate vertical force through the quadriceps and gluteus maximus with simultaneously flexion at the knee and the hip, followed by a full extension at the top. This movement also trains trunk stiffness, and I need to engage the core to stabilize the spine under an anterior load. In my reps, as you can see, I'm struggling with shoulder mobility, especially in the lats. I'm uncomfortable with inflating the muscle in that front rack position, and I need to drop my traps to open the chest and improve bar placement, especially since I have wrist limitations. That restriction causes anterior pelvic tilt eccentrically, which increases strain on my lower back. I also lack that neuromuscular control to engage my core correctly throughout the descent and ascent. The goal is to maintain an upright torso, keeping those elbows high as I descend to support that bar and preserve anterior load stability. Now we're comparing contrasting front squat to press and front squat to push press. Front squat to press is a compound combination movement designed to improve full body vertical force development by integrating lower body strength with upper body pressing mechanics. It builds foundation and strength through full ranges of motions and reinforced energy transfer through the kinetic chain. This transfer is essential in that athletic task such as jumping or even rebounding the ball, where the force is generated by the legs must be transmitted through the trunk and into the upper limbs. The starting position for both movements involves feet just outside shoulder width and toes slightly turned out to reduce the risk of knee valgus and allowing greater depth in the squat. Thumbs are wrapped around the bar, which rests in that front rack position right across the shoulders. This setup demands an upright torso, active core engagement, and an open chest. Any collapse here compromises anterior load stability. During the eccentric phase of the front squat to press, we see hip knee flexion paired with dorsiflexion in the ankle, which helps maintain balance and posture. In my reps, I showed signs of anterior pelvic tilt and a trunk collapse, indicating insufficient core activation and limited shoulder mobility, particularly in the lats, which cause excessive elbow drop. Ideally, elbows should remain parallel to the floor to support the bar. As the movement transitions into a concentric phase, the hip, knee, ankle joints reach peak flexion angles, preparing for force production. Extension through these hips generates upward velocity, which is then followed by a shoulder flexion and elbow extension to press the bar overhead. The neck should remain at neutral with the chin tucking in and out as the bar passes the face. However, I notice myself looking down during the press, which places unnecessary strain on that cervical spine. The final phase involves a controlled eccentric return to that front rack position, reinforcing trunk stiffness and positional awareness. Front squat to push press is designed to improve rate of force development, how much force an athlete can produce in the shortest amount of time. This movement transitions strength built through full ranges of motion into explosive power, making it highly transferable to sport actions like max, vertical, and sport acceleration. It begins with a front squat that descends past 90 degrees of knee flexion, loading the quads and glutes. From this deep position, the athlete must generate maximum force vertically, and the faster the force is produced, the greater rate of force development, which is what drives improvements in explosiveness and in power output. I noticed that during the second and third rep, my stance narrowed, which reduced my step depth and compromised my range of motion. This limited my ability to generate sufficient force through the quads and glutes, which in turn reduced the velocity I could apply during the push press. In the concentric phase, I struggled to produce enough force and speed, which lowered my overall power output. I made the attempt to be explosive and did leave the ground slightly. I did achieve knee extension and some hip extension, which also engages landing mechanics and reinforced triple extension. In overhead position, my trunk leaned forward, shifting my center of mass anteriorly. This indicated poor core engagement and insufficient spinal stabilization. I also showed signs of anterior pelvic tilt. This disrupted force transfer from the legs, trunk into that overhead barbell position. These breakdowns reduced the efficiency of my power output and limited the movement's sport-specific transfer. The push press demands precise timing and coordination. Any disruption in posture, stance, or core control directly impacts how well force is transmitted through the kinetic chain.